talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome into View from the West podcast, the podcast powered by Breedlove Sporting Goods, part of the River Rivals Media Network, the podcast covering Illinois high school football on the western side of the state. I'm your host, Greg Armstrong, joined by Mitch Stormer. Here we are, week 4, and looking ahead to week 5. Mitch, welcome back in, and are you ready to roll here?
You know, we've talked about on a couple different conversations on how we're already just about to the halfway mark, if we're not at the halfway mark already, 4 weeks in, 4.5 weeks in by the time of this recording. And this week, especially in the Western Big Six, in the track, in all the conferences, we'll just say it like that. I think we are going to see conference division champions or conference outright champions crowned this week. And that's exciting.
Yeah, a lot of great football to be played in all the conferences we cover, the Western Big Six, and I think especially the Three Rivers Athletic Conference. That's why we brought in our conference insider, Ty Taylor. Ty, welcome into the regular edition. You've been on some Instant Reacts pods, but welcome to the regular show, the Tuesday preview show, my friend.
It's great that I was able to do this. I think before Brian Stocking has never been on a regular Tuesday edition, so I am honored to be here. Let's talk high school football, man.
Yeah, here we go. So, like I mentioned, the Instant Reacts podcast, that is only available on YouTube. Go out and check that out. Head on over, subscribe. Mitch, we've now pushed to 563 subscribers. So the goal of 750 by the end of the season, definitely intact. So keep pushing ahead. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're listening or watching this, tell your friends to subscribe. Come on, let's get up to 750 and have a party here. So the Instant Reacts podcast, great show last week. Dare I say, maybe like our best, the most content we had for sure, Mitch.
On the first ever hexagon box in View from the West history, where we had 6 guests at once, and a handful, kind of like a revolving door. We had one out, one in, and it was a great show, great night of action. And again, thank you to all of our coaches who are consistently enthusiastic about doing this, about figuring out the technology and being on the show, because it's been a lot of fun on Friday nights for us.
Yeah, so Friday night we had Mike Morrissey on from Moline after their win. We had John Schlemmer on after Sterling's win at United Township. We'll definitely be talking about that one in a second. Matt Schuckman from Muddy River Sports came on to talk Quincy and the history that they made in the Western Big Six. Then going down to the 8-man ranks, we had Jason Roble, your old buddy, Mitch. Jason Roble, head coach of the Milledgeville Missiles, on to talk about their rivalry win over Polo. When was the last time you talked to Jason Roble?
It's been a while since we've been face-to-face, even though that we weren't face-to-face on Friday, but still just to see him was good. Yeah, we go back. He was a coach when I was in junior tackle. He's quite a few years older than me, 4 or 5 years older than me. So, yeah, good to see him and good to see the Missiles continuing to do well.
Yep. So we had those coaches on. We tried our best to get on to head coach Jaden Nord from Stark County. The Rebels are now 4-0. The tech didn't work out quite as we hoped it would. We couldn't quite hear him, but I say it's an open invite now. Anytime he wants back in, he's invited on the show. He could just let us know for sure. And Mitch, speaking of Jaden Nord and Stark County, I realized this week is a milestone anniversary for me. Throwback 20 years ago this week, I covered my first Illinois high school football game when I moved to the Quad Cities market. So back in 2005, when I started working at KWQC in the Highlight Zone, the first 3 weeks, I think Dan Pearson sent me to Iowa games. I was trying to remember exactly. I went to several Iowa games. I may have taken a week off in there, which seems crazy. I don't know what else I would have been doing on a Friday night, but I must have taken a week off. And then week 5, Pearson finally trusted me enough to go to the, it was like the minor leagues, like working my way up, doing some Iowa games, and then getting to cross over into Illinois. So So 20 years ago, in week 5 of 2005, I got to cover my first high school game on the Illinois side. And if you're watching on YouTube, here it is, the first highlights I shot. It was a Cambridge versus Stark County matchup. Now, keep in mind, I mentioned Jade Nord. This was his first season on the sidelines coaching for Stark County. And so a lot has changed over the years, but Jade Nord and I are still walking the sidelines of high school football in Illinois. So,
what year was this again? 2005?
2005. So, Mitch, do you know where you were in week 5 of 2005?
Oh, God. Okay, that was my senior year.
Yep.
That might have been the Bureau Valley game that we lost by 2. And to this day, it was not a safety. To this day.
Okay, you are correct because I looked it up. That was indeed what you 22-20 final. Bureau Valley gets
bad day. It was a very bad day.
So what's the safety? What was the call?
It was a kickoff. I do not remember what quarter it was in. Bureau Valley kicked off, and our returner, Sammy Biggs, who was a state champion in track in a couple events, he was our returner. And the ball bounced in front of him, and it went through his legs or it went to the side of him. I don't remember exactly. It never changed rotation. It never changed speed. It went all the way throughout the back of the end zone. And the refs said that he had touched it and gave Bureau Valley a safety on that, gave him 2 points. Now, we had a chance later in the game, and this is where I come into play. We had a touchdown. We were kicking the extra point. The snap was bad. It bounced into my hands. I was the holder. And I turned and called fire, which is the call to let the tight ends know to release and go out. It's very possible I didn't say it very loud. I had to run it, and I got stopped short of the goal line. So all in all, that was a very, very bad night. They were the defending champions. Or wait, no, they were the defending runner-ups. They would win 3A that year.
Yep.
But yeah, a 2-point call or 2-point play that changed didn't change the game, but that was the difference in the game. And still to this day, if you talk to Sammy, he'll just not a safety. Wasn't a safety.
Yeah. I didn't realize, or I guess maybe I didn't appreciate, your 3 losses that year were to an undefeated state champion, Bureau Valley.
Okay, no, I'll give it to you. It was the defending 3A runner-ups and would-be 3A state champions. We lost to them by 2.
Yep.
We lost to the defending 2A state champions in week 9 to Newman by 3.
Yep.
And then we went on to lose in the second round to Dakota, who went on to win the 2A title that year. And that was all in the span of about 6 weeks.
Yeah. Man, you talk about those what do you say, like those teams that get lost to history because they were this close. It seems like, man, like that you guys were this close to so many things, right?
Yeah, that Dakota team was so good, so it's not like that. But yeah, it was any other year we would have had a nice shot. I'm not going to say we would have went all the way or anything like that, but that was a good team. My senior year was a good group. Those 3 losses that we just talked about, 3 really, really good teams. So that's the beauty of the game in our area. So,
well, how about that? A flashback to 2005. I love it. It was my introduction to high school football on the western side of the state. Ty, what were you doing in 2005?
Where was Ty?
I would have been a 7-year-old at Apollo Elementary School. I was in Alito Green Dragon at the time. That was before I became a Mercer County Golden Eagle. But I was still at Apollo Elementary School as a 7-year-old, which means I was probably 2nd grade, 1st grade, maybe.
Yep. Probably a big fan of Cully Welter at the time. Still a big fan of Cully Welter.
Absolutely. Tyus Welter, his oldest, was my age. We were good friends before they moved to Monticello. I think we were 5th graders when he took the job down there and they moved. So, yeah, I was a Alito Green Dragons. That was me in 2005, and I would have been rooting hard against the Morrison Mustangs and Mitch Stormer if they would have come to Alito.
Fair enough.
My earliest, I probably went to a different game prior to this, but my first Morrison football game memory is 1999. Morrison hosted Alito in one of the early rounds. That was the first game this first game I remember ever going to.
Awesome. You said it was in Aledo?
No, it was in Morrison.
Oh, okay. There you go. That's great. That's good stuff. Yeah. All right. So there you go. There's our trip back down memory lane. Now that we have the video technology here for the podcast, I found that old video from my first games. I had to show it. Cambridge came away with the win, 36-19. They were on their way to a runner-up finish in Class 1A. They lost to Freeport-Aquin. Go figure, an NUIC team winning a state title. Cambridge lost to Aquin 30-28. But Stark County gave him a good game. Like I said, 36-19. And Stark County and Jade Nord would get the last laugh. The following year, they would come away with the win. They would upset Cambridge on the road at Cambridge. And it was a last second, or as a touchdown. And the go-ahead point after attempt was made by former United head coach, then a kicker at Stark County, David Milroy. So I got that info from Jade Nord today. So that's good stuff. So anyway. All right, that's enough of 2005. Let's fast forward to 2025. We start with our viewpoints brought to you by First Wealth Financial Group. Head to firstwealthfinancialgroup.com to get in touch with their team today. I'm going to let Ty start with a viewpoint here. You've never been in on this segment before. It's kind of like the headlines going into next week or what you saw last week. Just give us a headline going in here.
Well, yeah, I think like what you said off the top of the show, this feels like it's like the conference championship week. You know what I mean? Like I know in the Three Rivers we'll talk about it coming up momentarily, but when you have games like Monmouth-Roseville versus Princeton on the Mississippi side, the Rock side, of course, the big matchup with Rock Ridge and Newman Central Catholic, it feels like the winners of those two games really set themselves up to win conference titles just because of, like we talked about before the season, it felt like in both divisions of the track, there were a top two and then kind of the other four teams below them. And I think that has proven to be the case so far. I know we're only basically at the halfway point of the season as we get through week 5 here, but that's what I'm excited about. There are some really like marquee matchups, not just in the track. Like you said, the Western Big Six has a big matchup too. So I think our picture of like who maybe are the true most elite teams in the area comes a lot clearer this week with how those games shake out.
Mitch, what's your viewpoint for week 5?
Yeah, I hate to use the same one, but I do think that we'll be looking back. There's still a lot of football to be played, right? Halfway through, there's still games to be played. But I do think when we're sitting in week 9, looking back and talking about the conference champions, we'll look back to this week and say, well, it was decided then. I do believe that in both divisions of the track. I think with what each of those 4 teams really has left in their respective divisions, I do believe this week will decide each respective side of the conference, the Mississippi and the Rock. The Western Big Six is a little bit different, whereas there's one team will get in the driver's seat. Again, you have 3 or 4 teams all battling there at the top. So I don't know for sure that we'll have the champion crowned in the Western Big Six this week, but somebody certainly will get into that solo first spot after Friday.
Yeah, my viewpoint is going to stick in the Western Big Six as well, and I'm going to kind of use my viewpoint to look back at week 4 and kind of what has led up to this point. Week 1 or the first week of Western Big Six conference play went kind of as chalk, right? Kind of what we expected. The winners were who we thought they, would end up being, when the week started. And it looked like we were going to see something very similar to that in last week's games until Sterling steps up, and maybe a little tribute to the old Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friends. How about Sterling's comeback? We'll talk about it and break it all down in a minute, but the way that game started, and you thought, yep, this is kind of the team we thought UT would be, and they're kind of running away with this, or it appears they will run away with it. And man, Sterling exploded. I mean, Matt Gingrich said, I'm not sure I'd believe it if I wasn't here, was the message he sent. So it's wild, and it's impressive. It was an impressive showing for Sterling. So, just when you think you got it all figured out, then a team comes along and does something like that. And that's the fun of it. That's the beauty of it. So,
yep.
All right, Mitch, Give us your mentions. Who you got to thank this week?
I'm going to go back to some repeat contributors. We've had a host of guys that have just been seemingly going to multiple games every weekend, providing us with not only updates and scores, but they're shooting video, they're sending us pictures. So I'm just going to use my mentions to shout out Larry Cook, Shimdog, and Brycer Boy. Again, we've mentioned them numerous times before, but they keep exceeding their previous week's contribution. So again, can't do this show without everyone, not just those three, but everyone who sends in. I had to rely on Stockpile to get, oh God, what score was that? He had it. It was some obscure game and he had it. And I was able to return the favor on one he didn't have, but it takes a village on this show. So again, thank you to those guys and to everyone for making Friday nights a lot of fun. And again, allows us to do this.
Look at the beauty of friendship. You got a score that Stock doesn't have. Stock's got a score that you don't have, and we're sharing. I tell you, this is my kindergarten teacher.
I don't remember what it was. He might have had Winnebago, and I had United or something. I don't remember, but yeah, he was. He's all over it.
My son's kindergarten teacher would be so proud. All the sharing going on here. It's beautiful. It's a great thing.
It's a family show.
That's right. I didn't realize until recently, I think Shimdog was at our live kickoff party. I just added it up in my head. So, shout out to him for supporting the show and always helping us out week to week. So,
absolutely.
All right. Well, Mitch, tell the people who they need to know about.
Oh, they know about them. That's for sure. Tonight's episode is brought to you by our friends at Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They provide all the same sporting goods services as the big nationwide companies, but with a faster turnaround. And their uniform pricing is a fraction of the cost you're probably used to. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. Check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
Mitch, I see you rocking some new Breedlove's merch there. Did you just got it in the mail today?
Just got it today. A whole package from Abby and our friends there at Breedlove. So, again, we can't thank them enough for their support over the last couple of years. This has been the most fun that we've had with them, I think, this year. And we appreciate their willingness to kind of go down this road with us. And again, love the apparel, love seeing people getting their packages, and again, supporting the show and supporting local football. So thanks again to everyone who placed an order.
Yeah, to everyone who's been sending in photos. We love to see it. Love to see what you ordered. I love to see the pictures of people wearing it out at games. That's been a ton of fun. And there's more surprises down the way. I don't want to spoil, I don't give away too much, but there's more things in the works here for a potential second go around of the store. So if you missed out or if you want to buy more, there is options coming your way, and these are going to be really cool. I'm really excited about these. I'll mention that Breedlove's is digging into their archives. So that's going to be fun. So we're going to have some fun with that. So, all right. Well, the reason we're here, the reason we brought in Ty Taylor is to talk the Three Rivers Athletic Conference. The track coverage brought to you by Simulation Sports in Monmouth, Illinois. Visit thesimulationsports.com to book your golf or batting cage time today. So let's pull up the scores from the Three Rivers, read through them, Mitch, and then we will get into kind of the breakdown, what we saw here. And let's get those scores. Here we go.
All right, on the Mississippi side, you had Princeton getting the 63-12 win in that rivalry game over Kewanee. You had Monmouth Roseville beating Mendota 42-21. Hall got the close win over Sherrard 18-15. You had Ty's game on the rock side, Riverdale defeating Mercer County 43-8. Newman with the 40-14 win over Orion, and Rock Ridge defeated Erie Prophetstown 29-12.
There you go. Let's start through some of the games here. We had Princeton getting the big rivalry win over Kewanee, 63-20. Our good friend Dan Pearson was at that game, so we can pull up some highlights from that one while we talk about the way it all played out.
Yeah, this was a videographer's dream because you only had to be there for the first 10 minutes, and you had a half hour's worth of highlights. So, as a matter of fact, Princeton scored 3 times in the first 2.5 minutes. Kiwani had some big plays in there too. Princeton had 6 touchdowns in the first quarter alone. It was just big play after big play, touchdown after touchdown. Casey Etheridge had 4 touchdowns and 130 yards on 6 carries, along with 6 receptions for 77 yards. Junior Aiden Agushi scored 2 touchdowns, including an 88-yard kickoff return. This game actually had back-to-back kickoff returns in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And they had a 7-yard scoop and score from Grady Cox, who recovered a fumble strip sack by Common Green. So, I had talked about on Dazzo's show that it was, of all teams that have been surprising, I was following up on the question that he posed to Ty a couple days earlier. I had said it's week 4 and Princeton doesn't have a win on the field yet. Like, when was the last time that happened? Now, certainly they got the forfeit win from the week prior, but this was really the first week that they were clicking. And I know that Kiwani's having a down year, but this is the type of performance you want to have going into the biggest game of the year against Monmouth Roseville.
Yeah, Ty, what did you think of this one? And yeah, kind of, following up with what Mitch just said, it seems like a big primer for what is going to be a huge matchup next week.
Yeah, for Princeton, it just felt like they had to have been just chomping at the bit to play. You know what I mean? After 2 really tight losses to 2 really good teams in Newman and Rock Ridge to start the season, where they very easily could have been, 2-0. Instead, they're 0-2, and they have a game that they're heavily favored in against Sherrard to feel like they're going to get some momentum. And then the day before the game is played, it gets forfeited, obviously, due to sickness and injury in the Sherrard program. So, you start the season with 2 straight losses in tight games, and then you play, or I should say you don't play for 14 days, and it felt like that was exactly the performance you kind of expected out of Princeton. They got out there, they got out to a big lead early and just kind of pounded Kiwani into the ground throughout the entire night. So, and I think, too, it sets up a really fun matchup. Not that it really needed any more hype with Monmouth Roseville and Princeton, but when you look at what happened last year, it feels like Princeton probably is kind of in a similar mindset as they were last week, where it feels like they want to maybe right a wrong to what happened to them last year. They don't lose games in the regular season very often, and they, don't come up short in conference championship races very often. So I'm really excited to see how this year plays out with Monmouth Roseville and Princeton, because like we've talked about last year, I don't think it was shocking that Monmouth Roseville beat Princeton, but it was shocking the way they beat them. And I'm excited to see how Princeton responds, because I expect that to be a great game on Friday night between Monmouth Roseville and Princeton.
Yeah, one of those weeks where I wish I could be about 3 places at the same time, because I want to see all these games. And
shout out to Tiger Central Live, because they're going to have it.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great call. That's a great way to watch it if you can't be there. So that was the 127th meeting between Princeton and Kiwani. Of course, one of our favorite rivalries because of the trophy, because of the history behind it. So thanks to our friend at Friday Night Drive, Kevin Hieronymus, with the stats here. Princeton leading the all-time series now, 66-57, with 4 ties thrown in there in the middle. So just a great rivalry, and kind of a blowout one in this season, but always great when these 2 teams match up on the field. So we talked about Princeton getting ready for Monmouth Roseville. Monroe's getting the 42-21 win. But when you think 42-21, in all reality, it was a 42-0 lead before Mendota scored 3 touchdowns late. So Monmouth Roseville really handled their business here. No question about it. Nick Houston, 126 yards, 4 touchdowns. Landon Montroy, 87 yards and a touchdown. But they were getting it done on the defensive side of the ball, too, here, Mitch. Give us the stats on the D.
Yeah, 2 fumble recoveries. They had a blocked punt by Cody Johnson. That blocked punt was recovered and returned for 30 yards. It was Nick Houston who scoop and score on that for a touchdown. So really, 5 touchdowns on the night for Nick Houston? Just his season continues to be really, really impressive. And again, the type of game that you want to set up the matchup with Princeton. Like you said, a 42-0 lead in this game. And they were able to kind of take the foot off the gas a little bit. So I'm so excited for this game. Like Ty said last year, wasn't surprising that Monmouth Roseville won, but the way that they kind of surprised Princeton there in that first quarter, going to the air a couple of times and just catching the Tigers off guard. I think that Princeton will be ready for that this year, but this should be an absolutely great game. And again, one that could determine this side of the track.
Yep. So we'll talk a little bit more, preview that game in a second here. One more game in the Mississippi side of things. Spring Valley Hall gets the 18-15 win over Sherrard. Credit to the Tigers. They battled in this one after having to sit out a week and not play. They come back. They led for a lot of this game. I mean, just a great effort on the road. It's Hall's homecoming, so it was a big atmosphere on the road. It's the Red Devils, though, coming away, scoring a game-winning touchdown with 1:16 left on a 59-yard pass to Aiden Redcliffe, and he gets the job done, finds the end zone. So the first back-to-back wins for Spring Valley Hall since 2022. I believe that was Stockpile Gold there that I found on X. So, a great, nice win, a kind of a comeback rallying win at the end for Spring Valley Hall. Tough loss for Sherrard. I mean, just for what they've been through and to battle and to be close in this one and compete, it's frustrating to fall short. But the other, bit of note that we should talk about here, Carter Brown was ejected from this game, which we've seen the video now, and it was, it was an aggressive stiff arm. I will say that. And from what I can tell, I don't think it was a closed fist. It seemed like it was kind of a traditional type stiff arm. It looked very violent. But man, to eject him and not just go with a penalty, that's a tough call. And it's a tough blow for Sherrard, who now will be without Carter Brown next week. What'd you say, Ty, until he could play again in the fourth quarter of next week?
Correct. He can play in the fourth quarter, and it is unfortunate because he's such a great player and a great kid too, where, I mean, if you know him, there's no malice, and it just is weird because I've never seen in any level of football the ball carrier get ejected for like making a move, trying to avoid being tackled while he's running the ball inbounds. And it's too bad because the amount of adversity that Sherrard has had to deal with, like this year specifically, has been just insane. When you talk about the sickness that has kind of ravaged them, the injuries they were dealing with. I mean, I think they went to that game with like 26 or 27 kids available. They were missing a handful of kids who were two-way starters for them that were either still sick or hurt. So, they put together a really strong performance, and it's too bad when you factor all of that in. You're leading basically the whole day, and then, your all-state kid from a year ago gets ejected in a really weird way that I'm sure kind of took the wind out of their sails, and then you're trying to cling on and hang on for dear life, and you just kind of give up one big play late. So I agree. I said it the same thing after the game. It just felt like they gave such a great effort that it was too bad on their end of things they weren't able to pull it out. But it felt like a really big win for Hall, to get to 2-2, and they still have, I think, a game with Kewanee that's winnable coming up in their schedule too. So and winning on homecoming like that, where you kind of come from behind, I think it was like a 59 or 60-yard touchdown pass to win it basically in the final couple of minutes. A really nice win for them, taking advantage of all of that stuff going on.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, let's get into the Rock side of things here. Riverdale gets the win 43-8 over Mercer County. Ty, I'll hand it off to you. You were at this game. Started out well for Mercer County. They drove downfield and scored, but man, then you really saw Riverdale kind of take over and really just put down the gas pedal.
Yeah, Riverdale was really impressive, and you mentioned it was like a perfect start for Mercer County. I mean, they took the opening kickoff. They hadn't scored in the first quarter all season. Took the ball at the 25, basically marched it down, converted on 3 third downs and a 4th down as well. Took more than 8 minutes off the clock and scored and went up 8-0, and it felt like, okay, they finally have some momentum this season. Best drive, best they've looked offensively all year. And then the ensuing kickoff is returned 90 yards for a touchdown, and like it snowballed into an avalanche really, really quickly. Mercer County didn't get another first down until I think the third or fourth quarter when they were down by 35 points at that point. And one statistic to kind of really show how dominant Riverdale was in this game is their offense with their like main number ones in the game. They faced fourth down one time the whole night, and it was a 4th and 9, and they converted on like a 35-yard pass to get down inside the 10-yard line. So they were really good, impressive, dominant even, I would say, in that game to get to 3-1. And they had a great atmosphere. I mean, a great crowd. Their band plays in between plays. It almost kind of feels like you're at a college game. And then they had a cannon that was shooting off after every touchdown they scored. And I think I even said in our broadcast, like, I think they ran out of cannonballs because I don't think, like, when they got to their 6th or 7th touchdown, they didn't shoot it off again because they might have run out of them. So it was a really good night for them. For them to get to 3-1, when you think about all that program has been through over the past, 3 or so years, really, really impressive. So a lot of credit to Coach Dierks. A nice win for them for sure.
Yeah. Riverdale seems like one of those programs that you look around other sports and other activities, and they're really well supported, and there's a ton of interest from the student body. And football was always, it's a big deal on Friday nights, but just, Riverdale wasn't finding that success. Now, when you pair all that student involvement with a good football team, that's great. I mean, the program, the community has been itching for this kind of excitement, right? And this kind of atmosphere. It's great to see them get it. And it's cool to hear those kind of stories. So, Mitch, give us some of the numbers here from the Rams.
Yeah, Aiden Cryer, 4 for 5 passing, 151 yards. Jackson is at Teager, 110 receiving yards. A bit of a balanced attack here with Kane Beckett, 3 touchdowns, Gage Heinsohn, 62 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Lucas Dunbar, another one of their contributors. So, like Ty said, this was a really, really impressive win for Riverdale. And again, this program under Coach Dierks continues to ascend. And interesting game this week that we'll talk about here in a minute with Orion.
Yep. We'll get to there in a minute. A couple more games here in the Rock side of things. It's Newman getting the 40-14 win over Orion. Evan Bushman was 11 out of 12, 145 yards and 3 touchdowns. Matthew Blackert, 167 yards, 3 touchdowns. Great offensive effort from Newman, but I think what really stands out to me, their defense holds Cale Filler and that Orion offense to under 100 yards passing. So, Ty, you want to talk about kind of like making statements along the way here. Newman's looked good, and this is one of those kind of statements.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick before I get into Newman, I want to make sure my friends in Port Byron still love you from the West. So it's Creer is how you say the quarterback's last name, even though it looks like Cryer, and it's Jackson Tegler.
There we go.
Pronunciations for us there. So nobody in Port Byron hates you guys. I know that Brian Stocking probably would have been all over you, Mitch. So I'm just looking out for you, man. I don't want him to show up behind you in the mirror when you're like brushing your teeth tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Well,
shout out to Ty. Shout out to Ty.
And truth be told, I'll take this one for the team because I filled out the notes on that game, and I think I misspelled Tegler. So that's on me. It's not that one's not on Mitch. So, all right.
Anyway, back to Newman, right? You want to hear about Newman?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're defensively, they're really impressive, and I haven't got the chance to see them in person yet, but like I saw Orion the week before when they, Cale Filler and Owen Voorhees both scored 6 touchdowns and just did anything they wanted really to offensively against Mercer County. So to, see them, I think they were shut out in the first half and didn't score until the third quarter, and to hold Cale Filler to under, like you said, 100 passing yards. I mean, he's closing in on 6,000 for his career, which is just an insane amount for a high school quarterback over 4 years. So really impressive performance for them defensively. And I know we'll, speak more about the matchup coming up with Rockridge momentarily, but, it'll be another big test for them with the explosiveness of Rockridge's offense. But certainly, over the past 2 years, I think Newman more than anybody has had success slowing down that Rockridge offense, which we'll probably talk about more in a moment here.
Yeah. One quick note on Orion. Owen Voorhees did become the all-time career leader in receptions for the Chargers. So 119 receptions, nearly 2,000 yards. He's 80 yards away from having the yardage record as well. And man, we've talked about it when we've talked about Cale Filler and the accomplishments that he's had. But when you start looking at more accomplishments from wide receivers, this was an Orion program that over the last 15-ish years has had a lot of really talented offensive players. And for these guys to be at the top of the list is really, really a statement.
And he only needs he had a kickoff return in this game that was called back, right? That would have put him in the top 10. Officially would have put him in the top 10. So he's close to getting that too. So yeah, congratulations to Owen on a great career, great season thus far. Just circling back to Newman real quick, I did text Coach LeMay on Saturday and just said, what'd you do? You had this prolific passing attack with Filler there, and he had, I think it was 92 yards, and he didn't give away too much of his secrets, but it's just that they were focused on eliminating that big play potential that he knew Orion's offense is capable of. And we'll talk about this kind of Newman defense against Rock Ridge in a minute, but Coach LeMay was also pretty happy with his scheduling that he got both of these quarterbacks back to back, because while they're not similar in style, so to speak, there is some strategy to defending them that is similar. So, good to talk to Coach LeMay there after another big win for him and his group as they continue to roll along.
Yep, absolutely. All right, one more result to get to, then we'll talk about next week. Rock Ridge 29, Erie Prophetstown 12. Panthers hung around in this one, but eventually the Rockets would pull away. Kind of a weird game. There was, a weather delay in the middle of it, and I think there was some, field turf kind of wetness issues. But all that aside, Rock Ridge was still able to get the job done here. A pair of touchdowns from Cullen Schweigen to Owen Steele. Schweigen ran in another one. Wyatt Osborne returned a punt for a touchdown. So, kind of another productive week for Rock Ridge. They seem, geared up, ready to go for this matchup against Newman that we'll get to in a second here. But I think I want to talk a little bit about Erie Prophetstown as well. They've played two tough opponents in back-to-back weeks, in Newman and in Rock Ridge. And yeah, the Newman game kind of got away from them. This one, they hung around in it, like I mentioned. Another nice week. I like Keegan Winkler and what his connection with Gavin Adams. And then Tristan Hovey is a really hard runner. We've talked about it the last couple weeks. He impressed me. They just didn't quite have enough, against these really good teams, the teams that appear to be at the top end of the Three Rivers. But I think there's still some wins down the way for this Erie Prophetstown group. What do you think, Mitch?
Yeah, there certainly is. I do believe that they'll get one this week going on the road to Mercer County. But then they've got to win, and I think they'll most likely win in Week 8 against Mendota. But they're going to have to find a win against Riverdale or Orion there in Week 6 and 7 before Princeton comes into town in Week 9. Or sorry, they go to Princeton in Week 9. So yes, the path to the playoff is still there, which is a tease to our episode next week.
Look at that.
We'll be talking about that a little bit more. But yes, they're over the next 3 or 4 weeks, their schedule gets a little bit easier than what they've had so far this year.
Yep. All right, well, let's look at week number 5. Ty, these picks are hard to make, man. Every week they are, but week 5 it's especially here.
Saved as a draft right now. I can't get myself to send it. I cannot get myself to send it yet.
So let's go through the picks. Let's go through the games here, and these picks are going to be hard. Mendota at Sherrard, Monmouth Roseville at Princeton, Spring Valley Hall at Kewanee. There's your Mississippi side of things. On the Rock Division, you have Erie Prophetstown at Mercer County, Orion at Riverdale, and Newman at Rock Ridge. So let's start there and kind of work our way backwards. Newman at Rock Ridge. I think that's, that's for the Rock title, I think. I mean, we've talked about it at the beginning of the season. These were the two favorites. They've played their way into this position. I think the winner is going to end up walking away with the title. What say you, Ty?
I agree with you, and I think, too, when you look at this matchup, there's so much excitement because the last 2 years these teams have played, they've been one-score games that Newman actually has come out and won both of them, and really no matter what ranking you look at in the state, I think both are in the top 5, maybe even both in the top 3 of their respective classes coming into the week. So, I think for sure in the Rock Division, Rock Ridge and Newman are in a class of their own, and I think like we touched on at the top of the show, it was something we kind of expected coming into the year. Both have been impressive at 4-0 and both off to 2-0 starts in the division. And it's such a fun matchup, I think, because of how good both defenses are. You just know that when these two teams play, points are at such a premium, and not just every drive is important, but every single snap is so important, like offensively, to try to move the ball. And I know last year when we talked with Coach Graves after Rock Ridge came up short, like play calling, you can get a little bit aggressive or over aggressive on fourth down, maybe when you get past midfield, to say, okay, this is a chance where we might be able to score. We got to try to, move the ball down the field. So that's the thing that I think is so exciting about this matchup, is just how much points probably will be at a premium with how strong the defenses are, because you don't see matchups like that very often, I think, anymore, really, where, you're talking about maybe the first team to score 2 times or 3 times might be the team that ends up winning the game.
Yeah. Mitch, what are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, yeah. Again, we do these picks with WRMJ every week, and I was just sweating getting the email from Ty today because I knew that I'm going to have to think about it for the next couple days. So whatever your deadline is, Ty, I'm going to reach it because I'll probably wait until the very last second to submit. But yeah,
Thursday night.
Just look at the numbers. Yeah, look at the numbers. Newman, points for 150, they've allowed 60. Rock Ridge, points for 159, they've allowed 62.
Yeah.
So you're going to see different styles of play. And, I mean, look what Evan Bushman just did. They went to the air 12 times, he completed 11 passes, so they don't do that a ton. Is that the wrinkle that Newman will need to, get past Rock Ridge again? But can Coach LeMay and his coaching staff dial up a defense that can contain Colin Schweigen? I think we've seen Coach LeMay do that in the past against other quarterbacks. Certainly, he just did it last week against Kilfiller. But Schweigen's a different breed, man. He can hit you from the air, or he can hit you on the ground. And I don't know what the weather is supposed to be on Friday. That could play a factor in this. It could change the strategy for both of these teams. So they're so similar. They're so good. And looking at what they each have left in the Rock before each of them have Mississippi games the last 2 weeks of the season, I do believe that this will determine the Rock. And I don't think I'm going to change my pick. I'm not going to reveal it. I don't think I'm going to change it, but this game should be a blockbuster. It should be everything that we're hoping for.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be there. Still trying to work out some logistics, but I'm hoping to be there with camera in hand, getting some highlights from the sideline. This seems like one of those can't miss games. There's other ones in this conference too. Let's talk about the other big one on the other side, then we'll get into some of the other matchups that stand out to us. But Monmouth-Roseville at Princeton. We talked about what this matchup was a year ago and the way that Monmouth-Roseville handled their business, and at the time, it was at Monmouth-Roseville. It was their homecoming, and Jeremy kind of joked that the school and people in the school thought he was crazy for putting homecoming on the day they played Princeton, and it turned out to be the greatest weekend, right? Because they knocked off the Tigers. Now, the favor is reversed, and they're going to Princeton on the road. And man, Princeton is hungry. They were, they're motivated to get back at Monmouth-Roseville. Obviously, it's been a weird start to their year, having to sit out a game, but I think the confidence boost they got against Kewanee, combined with the fact that they've played Newman and Rock Ridge, they've played one of the toughest schedules of any team that we've talked about so far in our area. I think that's what gets them ready.
Is it weird, or is it fair to say that Princeton has the better resume at 2-2? I don't know if that's fair, but I mean, Monmouth-Roseville's played teams that are a combined 3-13. Now they've taken care of business and they've looked really, really good. Have they been challenged yet? No, they haven't been. Whether that's their opponents or whether that's how good that the Titans have been, it's probably a little bit of both, right? But Princeton, having faced 2 of the toughest teams on the other side of this conference, and then they had a week off too, right? So, man, again, I'm going to wait until Wednesday night to submit this because you can just see it going either way. I don't know. I don't know on this one. They've been such good programs the last 2 years. Last year was a classic. This year I expect it to be very similar, but they're both coming into this game from kind of different directions, but heading the right way.
Yeah. Ty, what are your thoughts here?
I agree with a lot of what Mitch was saying when you talk about like Monmouth Roseville, and I think they're really, really good. But yeah, the four teams they've played to this point, maybe one of them is a playoff team if Orion can pick up a few more wins. But, the other three teams that they've played, I don't think have much of a chance to get to the postseason. But again, it's the same schedule as they played last year going into this game when they, throttled Princeton. So I don't know if that's as big of a concern as maybe I even thought so coming in, because I was thinking about that this week too. But I agree too with what you guys were saying, where they're coming in from two different type of perspectives. But it just feels like I said earlier too, Princeton is just at this point where, you could tell with that game and how they played against Kewanee, how focused they were after coming off the 0-2 start and having to sit out for 2 full weeks before getting to get back on the field. And I think, too, they're going to kind of come out with a similar mindset. Now, of course, Monmouth Roseville is much better than Kewanee is. And I think Princeton getting to play at home will help them a little bit. And, too, like we talked about earlier as well, just with how that game went last year, I assume Princeton will be very, very focused. But, both teams are so well coached, and both programs, I think, are in such a great spot right now that this, like the Newman Rock Ridge game, I expect to be like a one-score game, just a battle, just a classic basically all the way throughout. So I'm really excited to see how this one plays out this week, because certainly I think it'll definitely decide the conference champion on this side like we were talking about.
Yeah. Mitch, when we were talking to Coach Pearson on the Instant Reacts, there's a plug for go out and listen to the Instant Reacts podcast. We had Coach Pearson on live after his win over Kewanee and then talking a little bit about this Monmouth Roseville matchup. But it seems like from the way he was talking about his offense that when the season started, they were tested early against some really good opponents, and maybe they were still a work in progress, that they were too run heavy. They needed to kind of balance out a little bit, and they're getting there now. They're getting more of an offensive passing game. I think that could go, a little ways for them here to, they don't want to be so one-dimensional as they were early in the season.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Gavin Lantham as their quarterback, or second halfback. However you look at that offense, it still makes no sense how they call that a single wing to me. Whatever. But And again, it's hard, right? Because they play well against Kewanee, but how much stock do you take in that, right? So then you look back and how they played against Rock Ridge and how they played against Newman. Certainly the Rock Ridge game, Princeton was up in that game. It took a very, very tremendous comeback from Rock Ridge to win that. So, man, here's what I hope. I hope in our picks that, okay, no, I don't want, this is going to sound bad the way I'm going to say it, but I hope that one of us picks against Monmouth Roseville and then Monmouth Roseville wins, just so Jeremy Adolphson can just hound us for it. I think Coach Pearson is too nice to do that. But I know that Adolphson will be on it from the jump if we do that.
I picked Monmouth Roseville last year in this game, by the way, just for the record. Okay. So, you know what I'm excited about is Nick Houston from Monmouth Roseville going up against Casey Etheridge on Princeton on both sides of the ball, right? When one's on offense and the other's on defense and vice versa. That is just two really good. Yeah, wrecking ball. That is just two really good football players that are about to do battle, and it's going to be awesome.
Etheridge has to be close to the county record, right?
Oh, I would think so. Yeah, that would be a Kevin Hieronymus question.
The way that he's been running the past couple of weeks, certainly that game against Sherrard, missing that one certainly would have helped, but he's got to be close to that all-time record.
Yep. So there you go. Follow along Friday night. We'll have updates. We'll have scores. We'll try to, one of these winning coaches, try to get him on the Instant Reacts podcast for the Monmouth Roseville at Princeton game and then the Newman at Rock Ridge. So trying to think, have we had all four of these coaches have already been on our Instant Reacts podcast, I believe. So we might have a couple return customers here if we can make it work. So two really great matchups there. I think they will determine who wins each side of this division. But other interesting matchups, especially on the Rock side of things. I think Erie Prophetstown has an opportunity here to bounce back, to get a win potentially over Mercer County, or can Mercer County get things righted in that game? That Riverdale-Orion game, we talked about how impressed we were with Riverdale. Orion got slowed down a little bit against Newman, but man, I never look past that offense. That should be a good one, Ty.
Yeah, and I think Mitch alluded to it earlier. It feels like we talked about coming into the year how we felt like Rockridge Newman were the top of the division, and then there was kind of the other 4 teams that you thought, 3 of them would probably be battling for playoff spots, and I think Mercer County has kind of sunk to the bottom of that division, where now the 3 teams in the middle are Erie, Prophetstown, Orion, and Riverdale, and it feels like when those 3 teams all play each other, which they still have to all play each other throughout the rest of the season, those games are going to determine which teams end up playing into Week 10 and which doesn't. I think 2 of them probably will get there, and 1 of them probably won't. So you talk about Orion, Riverdale this week, and then when Riverdale and Erie Prophetstown play, and then when Orion and Erie Prophetstown play, all super, super important. So, it's an interesting matchup because I feel like both teams offensively have looked pretty strong in really different styles so far this season. Riverdale, I think they've given up 1 or 0 touchdowns in 3 of their 4 games. And then, of course, Rockridge, I think, scored 49 on them. So we'll see if Orion can kind of crack that defense a little bit this week against Riverdale. But the winner of this game, I think, I'll be confident in saying, will be a playoff team. So it's a super important game for both teams for sure.
Yeah, yep, definitely. Anything else from the Three Rivers here, Mitch? We've already almost gone an hour, and we're 1 conference in. So this could be a marathon tonight.
Yeah, this strap in, folks, because we're just getting started. No, okay. Let me ask you guys, which one are you more excited about, Newman, Rockridge, or Princeton, Monmouth, Roseville?
What am I more worried about? Like to make the pick?
No, excited. Well, no, just excited about.
Oh, excited about.
Maybe I said worried. I have no idea. I don't remember.
So we haven't been going that long. It's gonna get longer.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really obviously it's really hard, but I think I'm a little more interested or excited about that Newman Rock Ridge game, just because I don't know. I just like the matchups intrigue me. I don't know. Then I say that and I think like, man, like Nick Houston versus Casey Etheridge. All right. I'll go with my first answer. I'll say Newman Rock Ridge. That's the game that I'm really excited about.
I think how do I want to put it? I think the Princeton Monmouth Roseville game has a bigger potential to be a larger win for one of those 2 teams. When I think about Newman and Rock Ridge, I either see them going pound for pound or I see them stopping each other. Whereas I could see one of the teams between Princeton and Monmouth Roseville breaking free a little bit more, maybe exposing the other's defense a little bit. I just don't see that as much in the Rock Ridge Newman game.
So which one you like? Which one is more exciting?
I think Newman and Rock Ridge will be a more of a knockout game.
Yep. All right, Ty, you're the deciding. You're the last. What do you got?
I agree with Rockridge Newman just because of, like you guys were saying, I think that game has the potential to be, closer because I think both defenses are just so good that like I was saying earlier, it just feels like every point is going to be super important. And the other thing that's super compelling, I think, is that Newman is really the only team that has slowed down Rockridge's offense and slowed down Colin Schweigen at all over the past 2 years. And they've beat him twice. They're 2-0 against him. And I think both games they limited Rockridge to 1 touchdown each in. And I know a lot of what they did was just put a ton of pressure on him and just kind of bring guys and try and get to him before he could get the ball out. And they really, I know last year especially, had him like on the run all night long, getting to him and forcing him out of the pocket and trying to, make plays where he's a little bit uncomfortable. So I think that's going to be kind of a fun chess match where Rockridge will try to counter that. Because I assume for Newman, and I'm not a football coach, so I guess don't quote me on this, but like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If it's worked twice, you might as well at least start out with a similar game plan and see if Rockridge is able to, adjust. And the chess match there, I think, is what's going to be really interesting because I think, both Rockridge and Newman have just tremendous, coaching staffs to go along with really great athletes and talent on the field. So, yeah, that's going to be really fun. I certainly can't wait to see how that one plays out. Like I said, I'm saying it's going to be like, I guess I don't want to say who I think is going to win, but it's going to be like a one-score game, maybe 2 touchdowns to 1 touchdown, 3 touchdowns to 2 touchdowns. So we'll see. It's going to be exciting, that's for sure.
Well, Mitch, you were worried about making Adolphson mad about our pick. We already made him mad because we said we were more excited about the other games. So there you go.
Yeah, just trying to motivate everyone here. We're just spreading the wealth.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, Ty Taylor from WRMJ. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your insights as our conference insider for the Three Rivers Athletic Conference. You'll be on the call for Mercer County hosting Erie Prophetstown on Friday. Homecoming out in Aledo, huh?
Homecoming. Let's see. I graduated in 2016. So this is like 10 years of the school year past I graduated from Mercer County. Homecoming week. WRMJ's in the homecoming parade. And I was the 2015 Mercer County Homecoming King 10 years ago, so maybe we could celebrate that as well.
Have you ever been the grand marshal of like the parade?
I don't know if they have a grand marshal for the parade, and if they do, there's certainly some bigger names, some bigger bigwigs in Aledo than me, that's for sure. So.
Yeah, Jim Taylor has the crown for that at all time. He's just the all-time homecoming king.
Right. Unfortunately, though,
absolutely.
he's not a native son to Aledo, and he's an Alleman grad, of course. So I don't know if they like him being a big private school guy. So.
Well, and now he's on the call for those Alleman games. So yeah, they're not gonna.
I know
it. Anyway, all right. Well, have a great Friday night, Ty. We will catch up to you down the road, no doubt about it. So, Mitch, we'll hit a quick break here, and then we'll backtrack. We'll get into the Western Big Six and move along from there. So, all right. Thanks a lot, Ty. We'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you, guys.
This is Dan Pearson of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Our FCA team of staff, board, and volunteers is pleased to support View from the West with Greg and Mitch. Our Northwest Illinois FCA team is 3 teams in 1, serving coaches and athletes in the Three Rivers, Northern Illinois, and Greater Peoria areas, all with schools covered by View from the West. For more information, email me at danpearson@fca.org. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni, and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together. You can find me in my Byron office until I run off to football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful, and memorable high school football season.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Hey, this is Brett Bielma, the head coach of the Fighting Illini from Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to the View from the West podcast.
Welcome back in. Let's talk Western Big Six football. It was a great week and some great games. We'll read through the scores here. Sterling gets the win 49-28. Mitch, I know you were watching this one. We'll talk about that one in a minute. Yeah, wow. They get the win, so Sterling comes away with the road win there. Moline gets the win 28-7 over Geneseo. Alleman falls to Galesburg. Final score in that one, the updated final, is 54-22. And Quincy goes on the road and beats Rock Island 53-6. So, all right, there's the scores. We got to talk about this Sterling United Township game. Mitch, UT led this one 21-3, and it seemed like, we talked about the beginning of the show, it seemed like similar to week 1, kind of the favorite or the team that we thought was going to win was kind of taking care of business, and it was going to be, end of the story. But man, not so fast, my friend. Like I said in the beginning, tell me about this game. We got some video courtesy of our friends at Golden Warrior TV to kind of help tell the story. But yeah, Mitch, tell us what you saw, because you were following it and you could not believe what you were seeing.
I don't know that I've ever. I was listening to this game. Our friends at QC Sportsnet, Joe Winkle on the call. I had more fun listening to this game than he did. That's for sure. I don't know that I've ever followed a game that played out the way that this one did, because one, again, UT is the proverbial favorite. And I'm not ready to relinquish that quite yet in this conference, even though a team might be sitting in first after this week. There's still a lot of football to be played, and UT is still a really good team. But I can't recall a game that a team that was not favored, trailing by 18 in the second quarter, and then rattling off 46 of the next 53 points in a football game. And it was just, they could do no wrong. They had big plays. They would get into short yardage situations, and they would just gash this Panther defense, which we haven't seen that this year from UT. So just an unbelievable game from Coach Schlemmer and his group. Unexpected for sure, but that's the beauty of the Western Big Six and the beauty of high school football, because these are the things that can happen. Great win for Sterling, and for UT. Maybe hits the reset button a little bit, but I don't think there's no room to panic, and I don't think it's time to panic either.
Yeah. So some of the numbers here: Maurice De La Cruz, 13 rushes, 127 yards and 3 touchdowns. Brady Berlin, over 100 yards passing, added 2 scores in the game. Added 2 scores in the game as well. Sterling took the lead on a Berlin to Quincy Moss touchdown pass with 30 seconds left to play in the third quarter. Then they go for another 25 points in the fourth quarter. Golden Warrior defense held UT to -5 rushing yards in the second half. I mean, it's just impressive all the way around, and you felt like the momentum shifted, and kind of big picture, it felt like this Sterling team really gained confidence and really grew up really quickly, right? There's unknowns on this roster, and they really found their footing and really just played on fire in that second half. Could not be stopped.
Well, the stat you just said, -5 rushing yards of this UT team that rushes a lot. This is a week after they got absolutely demolished by Moline, right?
Yeah.
400 yards rushing against the Sterling defense. So, again, an incredible win for Sterling. It should be noted, though, right? For UT, Isaiah Navarrete and Leo Sim did not finish this game. I don't know the extent if they were hurt. I'm not going to speculate on that. I just know that they did not finish this game. It was already in hand, I believe, by the time they both went out, but still. It was a good game for Jonathan Drake. He threw for over 200 yards and had a score. So, again, I don't think UT needs to panic. I don't think they're out of the race. They had a bad half, and it bit them in this one, but there is still over half of the season to go. They still have a lot of big games, too, left on their schedule. They still have to play Quincy. They still have to play Moline. Regroup and get those wins, and then you're right back there in the same conversation you were at the start of this game. So, but for now, great win for the Golden Warriors. Yep,
no doubt about it. So, also shout out to head coach John Schlemmer. He joined us on the Instant Reacts podcast. Really great interview with him. He was a little bit incognito. You couldn't really see him very well. Lighting wasn't great, but hey, you could hear the audio. That's all that matters.
Yeah, it looked like he had one string light in a barn from wherever he joined from. But hey, that's the beauty of the Reacts. You can come in from wherever. It doesn't matter.
Yep. So we appreciate him, and a lot of great talking points there from him, and kind of hearing his thoughts on that game, just kind of the way it played out and the wild way it played out. So yeah, like you said, Mitch, great win there for Sterling. All right, Galesburg gets the win 54-22 over Alleman. Alleman trailed by just 5 at halftime. It was close, but then Galesburg really ran away with this thing, outscoring the Pioneers 40-13. Grady Hickey played well, 17 of 25 passing, 275 yards and 4 touchdowns. Anton Walker had 6 catches, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. Demetrius Watson also had 7 receptions, 83 yards, and 2 scores. So this Galesburg team really came alive in the second half and looked good.
Yeah, I don't know that we've seen them kind of go to the air like that, but a tremendous performance there by Grady Hickey and the host of receivers that he throws to. Certainly has a handful of weapons there. So great win for Galesburg to get their second win of the year. And to see if they can't keep it rolling this week. Who do they got? They have Sterling. So that's an intriguing matchup there, right? 2 teams riding some momentum. But a good win on the road for Galesburg here against Alleman.
Yep. Moline gets the win 28-17 or 28-7 over Geneseo. Maroons rack up 251 yards on the ground, so another great rushing attack from Moline. I was able to get some video of that one, stop by, so we'll roll the highlights here. I was really impressed.
How's that field look?
It looks great, man. It's weird seeing Browning Field with turf, but it looks great. Check out that catch. Did you see that? So
okay, can we confirm who caught that? You said it was Eli Warren. Moline says it was TJ. We'll say TJ.
TJ, I believe it was TJ Shebler who actually caught the pass. I think Eli Warren wore number 17 last year, and I think I looked up the wrong roster, and so I thought it was Eli Warren. So my apologies, but I believe, yes, that it was TJ Shebler who made the grab. But
tremendous catch.
Yeah, and also Mark Carey, really exciting back here to see. We'll rewind it back, but he is just here, we'll watch the one-handed grab again here. Tipped up.
Yeah, unbelievable concentration.
Yep, incredible athleticism there. But yeah, I was really impressed overall with Moline's offense. They have, they're gonna run at you, they're gonna rush, they're gonna establish themselves on the ground, and they do it really well. But I think what really caught my eye was that Alec Ponder, Kaysen Ponder, the brother of Alec, has a really good connection with Nolan Ducey at tight end.
Yeah.
Now, they're not going to go deep downfield. They're not going vertical and airing it out. But what they are doing is going towards the sideline, just some screen passes or things out in the flats that really kind of spread out a defense, if that makes sense, right? Instead of
that's the Braden Little special right there.
Yep. And so they did that really well. And like I said, I was really impressed with Mark Carey. I want to show this highlight. Mitch, watch this run. It ends up being called back. But watch this little move here and this stutter step. Look at that little. Really exciting stuff. Like I said, it was called back on a penalty, but just you see a lot in this run. Like, man, he's a good runner. It makes that little that's like Walter Payton-esque, right? For those watching.
Try and get the defense off their heels. So yeah, Moline's been impressive. They've been great all season. Certainly, 3 straight wins after that close loss in week 1 to Rockwood Summit. So this was a game that we, again, how do I want to say it? We're still learning, I think, about both Moline and Geneseo, and I think we certainly learned more after this game. But, we had Coach Morrissey joining us at the Instant Reacts. What bar was he at there, Greg? Do you remember?
Mulligan's. Coaches meeting at Mulligan's, of course.
Yeah. Of course, the traditional coaches meeting on a late Friday night. So it was a great win for Moline. It sets up the game this week, and I think then we'll talk about that in just a second. For Geneseo, Moline's defense shut them down a little bit. Kai Wenzerl, Jackson McAvoy couldn't really get things going all that well, but they have a chance. They'll have a chance this week to really prove themselves in a game against UT. So great game for Moline.
Yeah. You mentioned Kai Wenzerl there. He posted on X and shared it with us. He went for 20 tackles on Friday night at Moline. So great defensive effort from him. They fell a little bit short, but that Moline team is proving themselves to be really good. I like what I see out of their offense. I like what I see out of their defense. They're a very well-rounded team. They got some challenges down the road for sure to win the Western Big Six, but I think they're one of the teams that you're kind of looking at now. And we'll talk about the matchup they have coming up because it's one that's gonna catch your attention for sure. So, all right, you also had Quincy getting the win 53-6 over Rock Island. So Quincy gets their 3rd win of the season. The Blue Devils set a new Western Big Six record for the most consecutive conference wins with 17. They break the record previously held by Alleman from 88 to 91 and from Rock Island in 99 to 02. So we talked about it on Friday night, the Instant Reacts podcast. We had Matt Schuckman in from Muddy River Sports. Go check that one out. He really gives great context to what this all means because this Quincy program has come a long way from where they had been in the 80s and the 90s, and now to see where they're at is really impressive.
And again, they kind of got, I don't want to say they got written off, but we were pretty quick to crown a new potential conference championship potentially right at the beginning of the season, and for good reason, and it still could play out that way. But here comes Quincy, still 2-0. It's still early, but still undefeated in conference play. They set this record for most in a row, 17. That's unbelievable.
Yep.
And they're right there. They could be in the driver's seat once again for the Western Big Six after this week if they get a win, but they're playing much better. Believe it or not, Rock Island led in this game 6-0, and Quincy rattled off 53 straight. But we're starting to see Hunter Schuckman really take control of this offense. He was 22 of 33 for 267 and 3 scores, added 2 scores on the ground as well. But this Blue Devil defense not only recorded a pair of touchdowns of their own in this game, they held Rock Island to just 166 total yards, and this unit has only allowed 13 points in the last 3 weeks. So they are playing very, very well. And they've got a Moline team coming in this week that is going to try and hit you on the ground. But boy, that Quincy's playing well.
Well, I was just going to say, a great defense is about to see an offense that I've been really impressed by. That's going to be Moline at Quincy. Yep, go ahead.
Before we jump into week 5, you had said Alec Ponder before. Did you see how many points St. Ambrose put up this weekend?
Yeah. 82
to 5?
Yeah. So
I tried to look on the Scoregami website, and the offenses don't even go up to 82, so I have no idea. So we're just going to say that a football game has never finished with a score of 82 to 5. It was unbelievable. Alec Ponder, of course, the quarterback for St. Ambrose, I think he passed for like 265 yards and 5 touchdowns or something. So, yeah, 82.
Yeah.
I saw him on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo today. And, 82 points for the Bees. Good for them.
And I believe he had a touchdown pass to his former Moline teammate. Is it Colin Schultz? I believe that they were sending out posts on X about that. And it was funny because Mike Morrissey posted some old coach's video of a play that was their Ambrose play that was very similar to what they ran at Moline. So it's kind of funny to see the same connection almost running the exact same play. Yeah. So, really.
Shout out to the Bees for getting their first win of the year.
That's right. Go Bees. So, all right, let's get into week 5 here. The marquee matchup, Moline at Quincy. That's going to be a good one. Galesburg at Sterling is intriguing. United Township at Geneseo, very intriguing as well. And then you have the Battle of Rock Island at Alleman. So, man, I mean, the Rock Island versus Alleman game is 2 teams that are, struggling. They're trying to find their footing, but the rest of these games are really marquee matchups that, are hard to pick.
Must win for UT in terms of if they want to keep pace with Moline or Quincy or whomever. I don't think they can afford a second loss in conference, to be honest with you. We're going to see that play out. Again, we still have a lot of big games in the Western Big Six, but if you're staring at a 1-2 hole in conference play with Quincy and Moline left, that's tough.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about Moline at Quincy. Quincy, as we pointed out, played really well defensively. But, man, I think this Moline team is rolling along. That's a matchup. I'm excited to see the highlights on that one. I believe Quincy has a live stream that you can follow along with, right?
They do.
Yeah.
It's whatever the TV station is down there, they have a website that they stream games on. You'll get to know who sponsors their first downs real quick because it's the same read every time. And, the last 2 years with that offense, of course, it's out of my brain now, but you hear it a lot. But
good for that sponsor. They're getting a lot of mileage out of that.
Oh yeah, that's whatever he's paying for. He's getting a bargain. But I'll have my eyes on that one for sure. Certainly, our friends at QC Sportsnet will be down there on the call. Yeah, can Moline just keep it going? Can they establish that run game against this really, really good Quincy defense? We've seen that Moline defense. They limited Sterling to 20. They limited Sycamore to 20. But have they played an offense like Quincy yet? I don't know. I don't think so. Not a quarterback like Schuckman who can sling it like that. So, again, a team or a game where we talked about in the track, kind of conflicting styles, but something's got to give. And this game, again, a lot to be played yet. Not going to crown a champion, not going to crown the winner of this game the champion just yet, but they certainly will take, like we mentioned, that pole position in the conference, at least after this week. So, but we could be sitting at the end of week 9 looking back at this game and saying that was for the conference.
Yep. I think, looking down the way here at Galesburg at Sterling, if I'm looking at it from Sterling's perspective, what I want to see is them come out at home and really dominate this Galesburg team. And I think that would show me a lot, right? To show me that they really learned something from last week, or they figured something out and now they're off and rolling. If it's close, or if Galesburg comes away with that win, then I think we're learning a lot about Galesburg in that case.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to get into the crystal ball too much because we're going to save that, and I love doing crystal ball.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be too early on this, but I do think this is a must win for Sterling's playoff hopes.
Yeah. Yep.
Just what they've got the next 5 games. There's some wins in there, but I think this is one that they have to win.
And don't you think, if to really know more about Sterling, if they're at home, I want to see them come out and really control this game, right? I think this is a game that, after what they did last week, and kind of just on paper what we know about Sterling and Galesburg, they should win it. I think I want to see them come out and control it. I think that would I would learn a lot more about this Sterling team.
Yeah, and we'll see them face a passing attack too, right? We just rattled off Grady Hickey's numbers and his weapons, so they'll have to be ready to defend that pass. Something that, I don't remember this. Well, Jonathan Drake threw for over 200 yards on him, but that's a big game. I think I think it's a must-win for Sterling to get back into the playoffs. Yeah,
and you already mentioned a little bit about United Township, but really intriguing matchup there with two teams looking to bounce back after a tough week 4. They've played close games in the past. So this should be a really good one. This should be a tight game.
Yeah, they get Geneseo this week, Quincy next week, and Moline in week 8. So the road doesn't get easier for UT, but they just need to rebound from that devastating loss there in week 4 and just push it out of their heads and move forward. Winnable game here for them. If they can get back on track, and if Navarrette's healthy, and if Sim's healthy and Drake plays well, they can certainly win this game. But boy, it gets a lot harder if they don't.
Yep. All right, we ready for the Big Northern Conference?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, here we go. Big Northern Conference coverage brought to you by Byron Wealth Management. Stop by and talk to Sean Considine today about financials or football. We'll leave that one up to you. Whatever conversation you want to have, Sean is there to talk about it. Let's get into the Big Northern. We start with the rivalry game. Byron gets the win 63-9 over Stillman Valley. So they are rolling along at 4-0. 5 touchdowns for Caden Considine, and Landon Bonvalet had a kick return for a touchdown as well. So a rivalry game, but it's Byron getting the job done. Kind of a no doubt kind of win here. They continue to impress. They do what they have to do.
Yep. Constantine was back. I saw the highlights on this one. They played Byron football. They could do no wrong. We, been impressed with Stillman Valley in the early part of this year, but it's hard to gauge any game or any team against Byron. Byron continues to look like the best team in 3A.
Yep, I was gonna say they're clearly the best. They appear to be the best team in the conference, but you could take it a step farther and say, they're the best team in Class 3A. So, all right, speaking of other very good teams, Dixon gets the win 48-0 over North Boone. The Dixon defense has only given up 3 touchdowns all season. So really impressive effort from the Dukes here. And, this was a matchup where we were excited. We knew North Boone had potential early in the season, but this was their first big challenge, and it's Dixon coming away with the great win. The Dukes were off early and often in this one, including the first drive of the game. Dixon's defense, Vinny Beretta, opened the contest with a safety. The ensuing kickoff was Owen Belzer returning it for a touchdown, pushing the Dixon lead to 8-0 without the offense even stepping on the field. So they also have some pretty nice offensive pieces, though. Jigger Kemp, Landon Carnegie, Braxton Bruce, all three found the end zone. So this Dukes team, they're one to watch as well. They fell short to Byron, but otherwise they've looked really good. And they competed in that game. They battled in that game against Byron as well.
Yeah, I saw the highlights on this one. That Beretta sack for the safety was a beautiful play. Kickoff by Belzer. And every time you see Landon Carnegie touch the ball in any highlight of him, him and Constantine, for my money, are neck and neck.
Yeah.
By far the two best backs in this conference. I don't think that's a stretch, but I think Constantine probably gets a little bit more, a little bit more spotlight than Carnegie does. But boy, he is fun to watch.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, a non-conference game here. Seneca gets the win, 35-28 over Genoa Kingston. So the Cogs fall to 1-3 on the season. This one was tied at halftime. Genoa Kingston took a lead in the third quarter. A great game where Seneca ends up pulling away. So, as I said, yep.
Genoa Kingston's played fine. I mean, all three of their losses have been by 7 points.
Wow. Yep.
With a win over Winnebago, they've got a chance to get it right with a tough North Boone team.
Yep.
This week, but they've got a couple more wins on their schedule still, so I think they can get back on track if they want a shot at getting into the playoffs. Though they're going to have to beat North Boone here this week.
Yep, yeah, that's an intriguing matchup. We'll talk about it in a second. Couple more games here. Oregon big win, 49-0 over Rock Falls. So Hawks move to 3-1 with the bounce back win. The next 2 weeks, critical for Oregon. We'll talk about that in a minute here. They play Dixon and they play North Boone. So they got 2 games there that are very critical, vital to their schedule. Another game, Winnebago gets the win, 53-12 over Rockford Lutheran. So Winnebago gets their first win of the season. Cooper Larson, 115 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Well, Keaton Langhoff went 8 for 12 with 165 yards through the air. So there's your look at the results. And I didn't even pull up the scoreboard, Mitch. I failed to bring up the scoreboard for the Big Northern.
It's okay. That's okay.
All right. Give us the week 5 rundown.
Big week here. Dixon at Oregon, North Boone at Genoa Kingston, Rockford Lutheran goes out of conference to Dakota, Stillman Valley at Rock Falls, and Winnebago at Byron.
So, I mean, that Dixon-Oregon game, really interesting there, to kind of be the marquee matchup in the conference this week.
Yeah, that Dixon defense, like you mentioned, they don't give up a lot of points. North Boone came into this game this week impressive, undefeated at the time, and Dixon put a stop to that real fast. So I think in the next couple of weeks, that kind of that middle tier of Oregon, North Boone, Genoa Kingston is going to shift around a little bit. But this week, I think the game and I guess on that topic, I think the game that has the most implications of who might finish in a playoff spot belongs to North Boone and Genoa Kingston.
Yeah, when you look at what North Boone has left, I think we'll know a little more when we get into our crystal ball episode next week after this result is in. But this seems like a critical game for them. They rolled off 3 straight to start the season, but if they want to get to 5, I think this is one they're going to need to get.
Yeah, I don't know if you want that on your plate playing Oregon at home in week 6.
Yeah.
I think they'll get a week in week 7. And Greg, you're pushing me into crystal ball stuff. I'm waiting on that. I'm waiting on that till next week.
That's it. We just keep teasing ahead to next week. We won't look that far ahead.
I love doing it. I love that episode.
Yep.
So I have to restrain myself this week.
That's right. It is a big matchup for sure. Like we talked about, Stillman Valley going on the road to Rock Falls, Byron taking on Winnebago, Rockford Lutheran in a non-conference game against Dakota. So there's your look at week 5. Mitch, should we take a quick break and then jump into the Lincoln Land Conference?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back to talk some LLC. This episode of View from the West podcast is brought to you by Simulation Sports. In addition to golf simulators and batting cages, Simulation Sports provides golf club repair, custom fittings for driver shafts, and even private lessons for golf, baseball, and softball. Whether you're looking for a fun group activity or want to fine-tune your skills and equipment, Simulation Sports has something for everyone. Visit their facility at 400 South Main Street in Monmouth, Illinois, or go to thesimulationsports.com to start playing today.
At Modern Woodmen of America, service is about more than our members. It's about our community, too. We share values that include personal financial security and helping friends and neighbors in need. We're your partner helping you protect your future, and together we're making an impact here in our local communities. I'm Nate Neighbor. Find me on the Modern Woodmen of America website.
Get to know your local Modern Woodmen representative to plan for your financial future and learn about valuable member benefits. Modern Woodmen of America. Touching lives, securing futures. Securities offered through NWA Financial Services, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Modern Woodmen of America.
The View from the West Player of the Week is brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. You can check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
All right, here we go, Mitch. We are back. Let's look at some scores from around the LLC. We'll start in the large side of things. Let's get that scoreboard pulled up. There we are. Farmington gets another convincing win, 35-0 over Illini West. You had Knoxville getting the win, 35-28 over West Hancock. Great game there. Princeville gets the win in the crossover, 35-14 over Elmwood Brimfield. And Macomb with another convincing victory, 42-16 over Bureau Valley. St. Bede got the non-conference win over LVC. That was 56-0. That was played on Saturday. So, all right, there's the scores. Let's look into what went into these scores. Farmington, again, impressive, 35-0 here. Mitch, the Farmers continue to look good. This game, again, the Farmers, attack you through the air, and they look really good doing it. Carson Noy, 195 yards, 14 of 21, 2 touchdowns. Of course.
Freshman.
Yeah, a freshman. Yep. Of course, no surprise. Jack Gronwald, 4 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. But Mitch, he did a lot more than just receiving passes in this one.
Yeah, scored on the ground, a punt return, and a pick six. So a very typical game from Jack, as we've grown to expect.
Yeah, love that type of performance. So this Farmington team, man, they continue to climb up the rankings every week in our NUICfootball.com polls that Kyle Kampmeyer puts together that we vote in. I don't know how you can't keep moving them up. They've looked really impressive.
Yeah, for my money, the way that they've been playing, one of the best teams in 2A. I mean, they've allowed 6 points the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And scored, an average of, quick math, it's like 42. So, yeah, just an unbelievable job that Coach Vallis has done with the talent that they lost to come in with a freshman quarterback, a sophomore running back, and to put up the numbers that they're doing. And that's just the offense. That's, I'm not even talking about the defense and how well they've been playing. So, great season once again for Farmington. They just keep rolling. Big game here with Knoxville. Much bigger game the following week against Macomb.
Yeah, looking at those 2A rankings, Mitch, I would love to see a Farmington Rock Ridge rematch. How about that down the road?
Yeah. And so we're not. I don't know that we're going to talk about it this week. Maybe we'll wait for some more dominoes to fall. But if Newman were to fall into 2A North, that would make that bracket even that much better.
Yeah.
So, but no, for my money, when we do these rankings, I've just been so impressed with Farmington, and I think they can make a similar run to what they did last year.
Yep. All right, well, let's look through the rest of the results here. Knoxville gets the win, 35-28 over West Hancock. Tight game throughout. Knoxville comes away with it. Ethan Harshbarger leads the Blue Bullets, 218 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, but he's not the only Harshbarger getting the job done here. Austin Harshbarger, 99 yards, a touchdown, including an 82-yard run mixed in there. Per the usual, Mitch, Knoxville completed exactly 1 pass.
The point. How about you complete 1 less pass and 1 more run? How about that?
Hey, Marty Turner's got them rolling there. They got the win. So however they do it, that's what they got to do to get it done. So on the defensive side of the ball, Nick Flacco, 5 tackles, 3 of them being tackles for loss. Another nice game for Chandler Dodent from West Hancock, over 150 yards and a touchdown in, coming up just short in this one, but nice win there for Knoxville. Macomb Bombers continue to impress. They get the win 42-16. Bombers run away with this one. They score the first 42 points of the game. That was more than enough. Caden Nupp threw for 268 yards, 4 touchdowns. His favorite target, Drew Watson, 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kyler Norton added 75 yards and 2 scores. How about Drake May on the ground? 101 and 2 touchdowns rushing. And Jeshua McFeeters, 8 total tackles on the defensive side of the ball.
All name defense.
There you go. Yep, there you go.
All name defense. So
really impressed with this Macomb team. They're a team I liked at the start of the year. We've talked about how impressed we are with Macomb. That matchup coming down the way here, that's going to be a really good one. Not this week, but it's coming soon. But these two teams seem like they're kind of separating themselves on the top of the LLC large division.
And they're on a collision course, too. Macomb goes out of conference this week with Mater Dei, who is apparently not having that good of a season. But then, Macomb's got Farmington and Knoxville after that. So still some work to be done here in this conference, but I think it's headed towards week 6 with Macomb and Farmington.
Yep. Mitch, in a game you were following along with on Saturday, St. Bede gets the win 56-0 over LVC. And then in the crossover game,
I was definitely following along with that game, Greg.
Well,
no doubt about it.
Our buddy Shim was there sending updates. So on Saturday, you were getting your football high school fix along with your college football fix. So
that's right.
And Princeville gets the win 35-14 over Elmwood Brimfield in the crossover.
How about that one?
It did kind of catch me off guard a little bit. I thought it would be a tight game. Thought it would be kind of a toss-up. We knew what Princeville has. We knew that, they had a lot of talent back and were playing well, but this Elmwood Brimfield team, this is an impressive win for Princeville.
Caden Sarnes has just been so good for the Princes. He was 7-15 this week, 177 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, but also had 4 carries and 148 yards on the ground. So that's 315 total yards and 5 scores. Like, that's seemingly a pretty typical week for Caden. So the Princes were up 22-0 at half, led 35-7 at the end of the third. Just a tremendous season that Princeville's having.
Yeah, like I said, just the way that they jumped out in this game to a big lead and never really looked back, I think is that kind of surprised me a little bit. That's a great win for Princeville for sure. On the defensive side of the ball, Colin Carruthers, 8 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Colin Lowry, 8 tackles. You also had Eli Christensen had 6. Owen Harmon had 6. Noah Geiger, Brady Day, each had 5 tackles. So a really balanced defensive effort. They got a lot of guys flying to the football here and making tackles. That's really impressive to see out of a defense. Shout out, thank you to Brian Wonders. He always sends us the info and the stats we need to know about Princeville. We really appreciate it. So impressed here for sure. All right, let's get into the Lincoln Land small side of things. Pull up the scoreboard here. see the results from last week. You had Rushville Industry, convincing win 54-6 over South Fulton. Like we said, Princeville gets the win over Elmwood Brimfield. Stark County, 33-0 over Rova Williamsfield. A-Town, 59-30 over United. And Anawan Weathersfield, 42-0 over Havana. So some kind of lopsided results here. We'll read through them and kind of get into the details here. But start with Anawan Weathersfield. Another just great victory. They had 42-0 at half. That was all the Titans needed. Nick Thurston, over 100 total yards, a pair of touchdowns, added 12 tackles as well. Wyatt DeSplinter, 11 tackles, 2 sacks. And then Maddox Heitzler on the ground, 130 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and then threw another couple passing touchdowns. So, you know, this Anawan Weathersfield team maybe hasn't been tested quite yet. They're going to be, but man, they've answered the call in every game that's been on their schedule so far.
Yeah, their next 3 games, Rushville Industry, Stark County, and Princeville. So they're definitely going to get tested here in the next couple of weeks. But so far, they've been over 40 points in each game, and the defense has been playing well. So totally what I expect from a Coach Grip team. And we'll see what the Titans are, you know, how they stack up against a really, really good Rushville Industry team. And I think that'll kind of tell us maybe what the next 5 weeks are going to look like for this Anawan Weathersfield team.
Yep. We also had, like we said, A-Town getting the win, 59-30 over United. Rushville Industry gets the really convincing win over South Fulton, 54-6. But the game that really caught my eye, Stark County taking care of business, getting the convincing win over Rova Williamsfield, 33-0. Mitch, I mean, we'd love to tell you all about this game, but we're still waiting for Coach Nord to connect. So
yeah, his microphone still doesn't work, so I guess we don't know for sure.
I know he's listening, so I'm just giving him some grief. No, Coach, again, the open invitation. You stop on the show whenever you want. Whenever you want to talk some football, we're welcome to have you. This game was scoreless after 1, but the Rebels pull away when this one, playing really good football right now. Ben Browning, 187 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, both to Connor Daum, who had 157 receiving yards. Connor Daum, another pick 6 in this game, now his 3rd of the season. The team has 4 of them total through the first 4 games. Rebels had 2 interceptions on the night. I believe that out of the 3 interceptions or pick 6s that Connor Daum has had, 2 of them have been for over 50 yards. So really field flipping type of interceptions. So really impressive there. Defensively, Luis O'Brien, 11 tackles. Chase Holstrom is a name we call the defensive side of the ball every week. He had 9 tackles as well. It was a team that had some question marks. They lost a lot of talent from last year, and here they are at 4-0. What a start for the Rebels.
Yeah, I think they're going to get to 5-0 and get playoff eligible here in week 5. After that, though, their season does get tougher with Anawan Weathersfield, Rushville Industry, Princeville, and Knoxville still to come on the schedule. So maybe it was a little easier on the front part of their schedule, but they did what they needed to do. I do believe, again, that they're going to be 5-0, be playoff eligible, and get into the playoffs once again there in 1A. But to kind of gauge how good is this Stark County team, I think we'll find out in week 6 through 9.
Yep. Yeah, that's going to be great. You know, coming down the stretch, that's what we want. That's what the teams want, right? They're going to see some great football down the way. All right, let's get into week 5 here. West Hancock goes on the road to Illini West, Bureau Valley at Elmwood Brimfield, Knoxville at Farmington, Macomb at Breeze Mater Dei. So what catches your eye here, Mitch? I think I'm interested in West Hancock and Illini West. Both teams, looking to bounce back and grab a win here. I'm interested to see who could get a win there. Farmington, Knoxville. Can Knoxville go on the road and play spoiler? It seems like a tall task with as good as Farmington's been playing, but I think that's one you look at there for sure. And then Macomb has another road test. They traveled north to Bureau Valley. Now they're traveling south to Breeze Mater Dei. Can they continue to get the job done?
Yeah, I think for me, it's Illini West hosting West Hancock. This is an Illini West group that has only scored 6 points in the last 2 weeks. Granted, against the two of the best teams in the large side of Macomb and Farmington there. But I want to see them get back on track. I think that there is still a path to the playoffs for them, but they'll have to win this game against West Hancock to do it.
Yep, absolutely, for sure. All right, let's look at the small side of things. Rova Williamsfield at Havana, Abingdon Avon at Princeville, Anawan Wethersfield at Rushville Industry, Monmouth United at Stark County, and LVC at South Fulton. I think the game that carries the way here, Anawan Wethersfield, we said they're going to be tested. It starts now going on the road to Rushville Industry. That's going to be a great matchup.
Yep, I absolutely agree with you there. I think secondarily, A-Town at Princeville. Can Princeville keep rolling the way that they have been? Again, Caden Sarnes has been playing really, really good football. Yeah, but I'm with you. Anawan and Wethersfield going to Rushville Industry. Both of those teams, I think, still looking to prove something this year. And we'll see really probably more on the Anawan and Wethersfield side what they're made of.
How about that Anawan, Wethersfield, and Rushville Industry? You got Nick Thurston going up against Ryland Reimholds. When you talk about individual matchups, that's great.
Yeah, Scott Bergerman will be all over that one for us, so can't wait to see how that game plays out on Friday.
Yep. All right, let's get into the Northwest Upstate Illini. Stockton with the convincing win over Fulton, 49-0. Stockton goes for 392 rushing yards in the shutout win. Blackhawks defense has allowed just 22 points through 4 weeks. What an effort from this team and this defense. And they're getting the job done on the offense. Like we said, all those rushing yards. Give us the names, Mitch.
Yeah, this night belonged to Jack Menzendijk. 4 rushes for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. Carter Blair ran for a pair of touchdowns as well. So, Kyle had said it on Friday. If you're ranking 1A and you don't have Stockton as the top team, why do you have a vote? Because they've just looked so good. No matter what team is in front of them, they've exceeded. It's hard to say they've exceeded expectations this year because we said that we thought that this would be the team that competes with Lee Win. Certainly, they really took care of the Panthers there in week 2. But just week in and week out, they come in, they stand on business. 392 yards rushing this week. So been really, really impressed with the Blackhawks.
Yep. You got that sweatshirt. You're rocking that hoodie now, the Stockton hoodie.
I do. That they keep on winning. I'll keep on wearing it in the deep playoff runs too.
Well, I mean, but what are you going to do? Like, you're not going to want to go against like your buddy Rickles here if if they end up meeting up again in the playoffs.
I know that'll be a tough wardrobe decision. I might have to go with a View from the West shirt for that one.
It's almost like you need to ask Rickles to get you a Lee Win hoodie.
I don't have one.
That's what I mean.
I used to have one that I got at the Panther Open golf outing, but I don't know where it is. So
that's what I mean. You need to get him on the line and get him, get some.
Oh, maybe then it's Stockton until I get that sweatshirt. I'm not sure.
There you go. Well, speaking of Lena Winslow, they get the win 38-0 over Dakota. Game was called due to weather in the third quarter, but not before 106 yards and 3 touchdowns from Ashton Gerber. Ian Geisman. There we go. Geisman added 83 yards as well. Apologies, Ian. We'll get your name. I got your name there. And Alex Schlichting.
I literally put the enunciation there for you, Greg. I got it from Kyle. I put it in there for you, and it just still
I was reading.
Sorry,
I was reading fast, and it was right after the name, and so yeah. Anyway, yes.
83 yards for Ian there.
Ian Geisman, 83 yards. Alex Schlichting did not play in this game, but Lena Winslow still comes away with the win. They're now sitting at 3-1, 2-1 in conference. Duran Pecatonica, Dupec, 4-0 with the win over Galena, 52-20. This was a game we were intrigued to watch, and the Rivermen roll on to 4-0 with a really impressive effort. Mitch, tell them what they need to know, and we'll roll the highlights here, courtesy of our friend Dan Hammond. He was all over it, giving us some vid.
Yeah, the Rivermen, they do move to 4-0 by rolling up 464 rushing yards on this night. Look at the Rivermen go there in the video if you're watching on YouTube. 464 yards. My goodness, he's still not done. I'm talking this entire time. Dermot Dolan continues to impress this season. He's on this video package that you're seeing on YouTube now. His best game of the year, 286 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns for the Rivermen. Lucas Rousseau added 107 yards and 3 touchdowns. How about defensively, Greg? Let's give some love to the defense. Trey Jones, 11 tackles, an interception, a fumble recovery, and a pass breakup on a 2-point conversion play. So Dupek getting it done on both ends of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Demas said he was very pleased with their physicality and the point of attack when they had the ball in their hands. Mitch, when we're hearing physicality up front, leading the way for a rushing game, what do you think? Maybe some Godfather's Pizza coming to Dupek?
I think that this performance is warranted of the Godfather's Pizza of Silvis offensive line of the week. Once again, 464 rushing yards for Dupek. Let's call out some names here for the big fellas up front. Colton Maurer, Justin Anderson, Dylan White, Trey Jones, Declan Dolan, and the inline tight end there, Zach Carlson. Coach, very easy to point out, very much considered a part of the O-line there for Zach. In addition to those guys, throw in Sebastian Green, Colton Frint, and Dylan Maurer, important pieces of that O-line. Of course, this offense is a new look this year, run heavy. We just talked about the rushing yards that they've had this week and in the season altogether. This is a very, very cohesive group of linemen. Outstanding job in this win over Galena.
Yeah, I mean, the video, you saw it there. Very impressive. The space they were able to clear for the rushing attack of Dupek. Really impressive. So for their efforts, those guys have 2 large, 1-topping pizzas coming courtesy of our friends at Godfathers in Silvis. And I realized that, from Durand Pecatonica to Silvis is a bit of a road trip, but they'll have a coupon there to use, and I would say if there's ever a good reason for a road trip, it's to get some free Godfather's Pizza, I would say.
Yeah, go see Andy at Godfather's Pizza Silvis, and they'll make it up to you despite again that distance between the two. But want to make sure that we reward the big fellas up front for this performance.
Yeah, maybe if it's a playoff game in or around the Quad Cities and they're passing through, they could make that stop to Godfathers in Silvis. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So Mitch, if we're talking about the offensive line leading the way for Dermot Dolan, I think
too for the this is another first in our show's history because this is the first year that we've done the offensive line of the week. For the first time, we are awarding our Breedlove's Player of the Week and our Godfather's Pizza of Silva's Offensive Line of the Week in the same game. Our Breedlove's Player of the Week goes to Dermot Dolan, 286 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns again in that big conference win over Galena. So to Dermot, we have a whole package for you that we're going to be sending to Coach at the school for you, and that should be in your hands hopefully this week. So congratulations to Dermot. Really has been impressive this entire season, and this game kind of the culmination of the 3 weeks prior. So great performance by Dermot all year. Great performance in this win.
I mean, I will say, I will jokingly say that, the job his line does up front, he's barely being touched throughout the first 10 yards of his run. And then, man, that's right when the fun really starts, when he fights through some of those tackles, and the way he just attacks a defense when he's running the ball is really impressive. All year long, he's been getting the job done. This one against a really solid Galena team, a really good Galena defense. And yeah, to your point, great effort here. Congratulations to Dermot Dolan from Dupek, from the Rivermen, our Breedlove's Player of the Week. And Mitch, how about the chime there to indicate our winner? I like it. It's a new touch to the Player of the Week.
Yeah, how about that? See, we're getting better every week with that.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's move along here. Forreston gets the win, 36-21 over Morrison. Another huge rushing night in the NUIC for the Cardinals. 58 times running the ball, 393 yards, 5 touchdowns. Man, that was another potential. We could have been sending pizzas to them. Yeah. That was another one.
There's a big theme in the NUIC this week, and it's rushing yards.
Yeah. So Jonathan Milnes paced the Forreston attack with 124 yards. Mustang quarterback Carson White threw for 200 yards and a score for Morrison. But another nice win here for the Cardinals. And it's a team that we were kind of wondering if they would bounce back. And here they are at 3-1.
Yeah, it's been a couple of good weeks of really good football for Forreston. Good to see them back. It was a tough year for them last year, but now sitting right there towards the top of the conference at 3-1. Big game with Galena this week and EPC next. So there are still some pretty tough games left on Forreston's schedule, but the way that they've been playing, 3 straight wins now for the Cardinals, momentum's on their side. See if they can keep it rolling.
Yep. One more game here. EPC 30-18 over Fenimore, Wisconsin. Draven Zier, 46 carries, 235 yards. Yeah. Man,
46 carries.
Yeah, he is. Woo. Yeah, he is the workhorse. The definition of workhorse right there. Wow, what an effort from him. They were down 12-0 at the end of the first quarter. Then they outscored Fenimore 30-6 the rest of the way. So impressive non-conference win there to bring them to 3-1 on the season. So, all right, here we go. Yep. Let's get into week number 5. The slate in the NUIC. Galena goes on the road to Forreston. Man, right away, that matchup catches my eye. Fulton at Lena Winslow. Eastland Pearl City at Dupec. Another game that catches my eye there. Morrison at Stockton, and Rockford Lutheran in the non-conference game against Dakota. So, I mean, you got to look at Galena at Forreston or EPC at Dupec. What do you like there, Mitch?
Yeah, those are the two big ones here. I think, again, for Dupec, was quick to point out that they hadn't had the toughest of opponents the first 3 weeks, and they play Galena, and they blow them out of the water.
Yep.
So can they continue to do that against an EPC team that, again, ran the ball a lot? Draven Zier can't do that every week. So, but that's also the MO for the Rivermen this year. So should be a lot of, either going to be a lot of rushing yards or really good defense in that game. And for Galena, I want to see if they can bounce back from that tough loss to Dupec. Can Roman Romer get things right? We've seen him have incredible performances this year. But Forreston, again, sitting there at 3-1, got momentum on their side. They're kind of in a win now mode as well with what they've got coming up on the schedule. So other games I think are we know who's going to win those. But those two, I think, when you're talking about jockeying for a position in the conference and fighting for a playoff position, those two games, Galena and Forreston and EPC and Dupec, have more implications in that aspect.
Yeah. I think this Galena at Forreston game, what stands out to me is kind of one of those, like, prove it to me games for Forreston, right? Like, if Forreston is going to bounce back from the 2 wins they had last year, they're sitting at 3-1 now. This seems kind of like a prove it. All right, you're at home against a good Galena team. If you get this win, then I think you're really catching my attention.
Yeah, I don't want to say that it's a prove it game for Galena too, but you want to prove that EPC win wasn't a fluke, right?
Yep.
And I don't think it was a fluke. What I mean is, can they sustain that level of performance in a big game after getting beat up by Dupec a little bit? Certainly Dupec, a bigger school. But with Forreston, Stockton, and Lena Winslow as your next 3 games, I think we're going to learn a lot more about Galena here in the next couple of weeks.
We won't look into the crystal ball. We'll just allude to it. I think Galena has the easier path the rest of the way compared to Forreston. We'll look into it next week. You're thinking hard about this.
No, okay. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about it next week. That'll be the crystal ball. But all right, does that do it for the NUIC, Mitch? Anything else?
No, that's it. Hey, look, Rockford Lutheran and Dakota, 2 schools that are just, they're struggling this year. There's no doubt about that. So one of those teams is going to get a win. We cover both of them, even though this is a out of conference game for both teams. But a chance for a win here, and looking forward to seeing who comes out on top. Because again, it's a tough year. We want these kids to win, and so good luck to those teams.
Yep. All right, here we go. Let's get some 8-man football talk in here before we wrap up. You had West Carroll getting the win 48-0 over River Ridge. So nice win there for the Thunder. Really took care of business there. Ashton Franklin Center, or Orangeville, gets the win 48-8 over Ashton Franklin Center. Hayden Schofield went for 219 yards in the win. Thanks to our friend at the NUICfootball.com, Kyle Kampmeyer, has the stats here. He now moves into 5th place all-time on the I8FA rushing list.
And he's a sophomore?
Oh, I don't know. Is he only a sophomore? Really?
He's not a senior. I know that.
Oh, wow. Well, that's impressive then. Yeah. He's got over 3,500 yards so far and counting. So really, as he goes, the Orangeville Broncos go, and they went really well on Saturday in that win. You also had the big one, the battle for the blacktop. We talked to head coach Jason Roble on Friday night after.
He's a junior. Sorry.
There you go. Either way, it's still impressive.
Still.
Yeah. All right, so the battle for the blacktop goes to the Milledgeville Missiles. They get the win 28-6 over Polo. We got the highlights here. Let's pull them up. Like I said, we talked to head coach Jason Roble the other night. Really good to hear his insights, and another nice win for Milledgeville here. They've now beaten Amboy and Polo this season.
Yeah, and we brought that up to coach there on Friday night. That's a good resume and 2 really, really nice wins for Milledgeville. So they're proven to be that top team in 8A, 8-man, like we thought that they would be coming into this year. I think that they have a very, very capable team of getting back to the state championship this year. And this was a great win. They scored the final 20 points in this game to beat a really, really good Polo team. Milledgeville gave up a score and then kind of got the momentum right back. A couple of big stops, including a 4th down stop in the second half when it looked like Polo might get back into the game a little bit. But in the end, the Missiles coming out on top.
Yeah, Spencer Nye had just over 100 total yards rushing and receiving. Carter Livingood, a name we're also very familiar with, 2 catches for 82 yards. Evan Shank finishes with 5 rushes, 58 yards. The Missiles outgained Polo 285 to 148, and that was on 2 fewer offensive plays. So
that's a pretty good defensive matchup for 8-man. Those seem like low numbers.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, that's a good call. Shout out to Friday Night Drive. That was Ty Reynolds on the on the stats there. So credit to them. They do a great job covering those schools out that way in the Sauk Valley area. Spencer Nye, like I said, 100 total yards, also added 10 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, an interception, a fumble recovery. I think he was Kyle's 8-man player of the week, and for well-deserving there. That's a great effort there from Nye and the Milledgeville Missiles. So they get the battle for the Blacktop Trophy. That one's staying in Milledgeville after the Polo Marcos won it in the regular season last year. It was Milledgeville who got the win in the playoffs. So we'll see. These teams may be on a collision course to play each other again in the postseason. So always a great matchup when these two teams match up. Did you ever go, back when you were in the area, did you ever go to a Milledgeville Polo game?
No, never went. I've been to Milledgeville High School a couple of times.
Yeah.
I never had a football game there.
Okay.
But no, we talked a little bit about it in the Kewanee Princeton. Anytime that we've got these long-standing, not just trophy games, but long-standing rivalries, we love to see that those are still intact with all the things going on with conference realignments and teams moving here and teams moving there. Certainly both of these teams have moved into 8-man. So good to see that tradition lives on, and the games are as good as they've always been.
Yep. They're playing for, the pride, and they're playing for the, the trophy, and it's fun to watch every year for sure. So, all right, a few more scores here from last week. Flanagan Cornell Woodland falls. Amboy gets the win 46-18 over Flanagan Cornell Woodland. You had Galva getting the big win 70-12 over Bushnell Prairie City. I got to talk to Coach Anderson from Galva. Happy for him, happy for that program. They got 2 wins this season already, and this is a program that's struggled. They were 0-9 the previous 2 seasons, so congrats to the Wildcats on what you hope is the start of a turnaround for them, right? To now they'll have some games, some heavy hitters coming down the way, but I think for right now, just enjoy the 2 wins, and what momentum you got going here.
Yeah, absolutely. A great story there, great turnaround for Galva, and a great win, of course, here. Again, putting up 70 points against a BPC team.
Yep, it was Blake Stahl who went close to 250 yards and 5 touchdowns. In talking to Coach Anderson, he said they executed their game plan to perfection. They wanted a power running game, and they did just that to get the job done. So congratulations to Galva. A lot of excitement out there. Glad to give them, some coverage here and a shout out. You also had West Central getting the win 36-26 over Ridgewood. That's a nice win for West Central. Kind of one of those prove-it type of games, 2 programs that are pretty equal, and to come away with this win is a big resume builder for them for sure. So, all right, let's look at the Week 5 slate for 8-man football. West Prairie goes on the road to West Central. Peoria Heights goes at Bushnell Prairie City. You have Ridgewood at Flanagan Cornell Woodland, Amboy at Galva, Polo at AFC, River Ridge at Milledgeville, West Carroll at Orangeville. Overall, not a lot of marquee matchups that are going to grab the headlines. Obviously, a lot of excitement around Galva getting that big win. This is a big test for them, hosting Amboy Lamoille. Milledgeville is playing really well. They're hosting a River Ridge team that came off a pretty big loss to West Carroll. But I kind of look at that West Carroll-Orangeville game, and if Orangeville wants to try to get back on track, this would be a big win for them.
Yeah, can they get Schofield going? I think would be obviously it's not a huge stretch to say that that'll be a big indicator of how well they do. But West Carroll's looks good. This is the second year that they've been playing an 8-man. Have really, really been impressive since they made that switch. So, yeah, I think probably the Galva Amboy Lamoille game, Amboy Lamoille, Ohio.
There you go.
If we're being specific.
Yep.
Probably grabs the headlines just to see, again, Galva prove it mode, right, against the defending champs coming into town.
Yeah. I think what's interesting to note in that 8-man Northwest division, Orangeville's 2-2 on the season, but they're 2-0 in conference play, in their division play. West Carroll is 3-1, but they're only 1-1 in conference play or in division play. So Orangeville
Who did they lose to?
What's that?
Who did West Carroll lose to?
West Carroll lost to Polo 30-20 last week. Yep. So
that's right.
But when you start looking, this seems like a really big opportunity here for Orangeville to go to 3-0 on their side of the conference for sure.
Yeah.
So
yep. Yeah, it should be a good week in 8-man here.
Yep. All right, Mitch, we're just over 2 hours. That's definitely a record for this season.
Oh, yeah, not a record by any stretch, but a record for this year.
A record for this season. Yeah. We'll temper it with that.
We're going to blame Ty on that for going long.
There you go. It's exciting though with the addition of video and graphics. I think it adds a lot to the show. Adds a little bit of time as well. So.
Well, and this is a big week too. A lot of big games. I think the implications of this week are going to be what we talk about at the end of the year. So much warranted to give this one a little bit more discussion. Maybe even next week too, when we talk about the results of this week and we start crystal balling a little bit more.
I was going to say next week's show, maybe we'll kind of adjust the format a little bit, and we won't talk in depth about the previous week so much. We'll do a lot of that on Friday night in the Instant Reacts podcast, but then maybe come next Tuesday's episode, we'll really kind of look into that crystal ball. We'll look at week 6, obviously, and then we'll look at the crystal ball and see what 4-game schedules teams have left and kind of what it looks like for them either making the playoffs, winning their conference, winning their division, etc. So I'm excited. Like you already said, it's one of the best episodes of the year, dare I say.
We'll be 5 weeks in and crystal balling for the playoffs already.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't seem fair.
Yep. It flies, man. And I'm wearing this hooded sweatshirt now that I got from, Breed Loves. I'm ready for hoodie weather, Mitch. I need hoodie weather.
Oh yeah.
It's been a little unseasonably warm around here. I need it to cool down a little bit.
Yeah, we finally got rain out here for the first time in months. It's been like the Sahara Desert, but finally temperatures seem to be cooling down, and yeah, it'll probably snow in May, but for now we'll just wait for some cooler temperatures, and football fall weather is what we need. And boy, we're again hard to believe we're talking week 5.
I know.
And starting to look at playoff picture already.
Yep. I am hoping to be in Rock Ridge on Friday night. We'll see.
Okay.
Gotta figure out some logistics. Hoping to be there, but I will definitely be here and ready to roll live at 10:15.
And I hope you are, because Quincy will have their stream going. Princeton will have their stream going.
Yep.
Rock Ridge doesn't always have one. They probably have one on NFHS, but I'd rather have you there in person to
Yep.
get the sights and sounds. So should be a great week. Should have some good guests hopefully lined up there for the Instant Reacts. Even if we don't, it'll be a great show because it's always fun. But should have a lot to talk about nonetheless.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who listens every week. Thank you to everyone who subscribes and follows along on our social medias. It's been a great season. We're rocking and rolling here, and we can't wait to keep building towards the playoffs, just like all the teams we're covering. So thank you, everyone. The next time you hear us talking, we'll be talking results from week 5 on the Instant Reacts podcast. Of course, that's live on our YouTube channel, 10:15 Friday night. And then we'll be back at the regular time on Tuesday morning to get the breakdown of all of it and look ahead into that crystal ball. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mitch. We will talk again on Friday night. That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to go out to Apple Podcasts or Podbean and subscribe so you can follow along, and downloads will come automatically every week. You can follow along on Twitter at ViewFromWestPod. You can also email me if you're interested in being a sponsor, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.